Salutations, ladies and gentlemen, the Knife Raven here, back again with another video. And in today's video, I will be taking a look at a knife from a brand I discussed a few months back, and that is Mikov. Now, Mikov is a Czech-based company that's been going strong since 1794, and their most popular and, well, legendary knife is the little fish, also known as the Rybička. And this is a traditional slip joint folder that is typically used as a mushroom knife and a general purpose everyday carry. It's very simple in its construction, it's shaped like a fish, and it's very inexpensive while remaining very high quality. And I spoke highly of this knife, and I will continue to do so, as I still very much enjoy it. But today I'll be upscaling and talking about one of Mikov's latest models, and that is the Kostka. Now, Kostka, which means cube, is a knife that Mikov had available, I believe, about a year ago. But I only got one recently when Legality Tools, the same place that I got the little fish at, made them available. And I believe I got the last one, but if you are interested, please keep an eye on that website, as there's a good chance you may be able to get one. But here is the box that it comes in, and it shows you fairly well how the knife works, and of course you have their 7-year guarantee. It is a Czech-made product. You have a brief description of the knife in 4 languages, if you'd like to pause that there. Of course, here is English, and their website if you want to browse the rest of their catalog. So there you are. Now, this is a very interesting knife that doesn't even really look like a knife. Just looks like a little stainless steel cube. And it measures only 3 inches, so it's very small and would fit quite well into a pocket. But this, believe it or not, is a knife. And to open it, you rotate this part of the frame out, and then rotate the second part of the frame, and there is your blade. So this is the Mikov Kostka. It's a very strange but very intriguing little knife, and what I first thought of when I saw this was a traditional surgeon's scalpel, with a long, all-stainless handle and a short blade with a fine tip. That's the first thing I thought of upon seeing it, and it definitely could share resemblance. The overall length, of course, is coming in at 5.5 inches. So again, not a large knife. The blade length is 2.5, and the cutting edge is just a tiny bit over 2. So if blade length is a concern, this should fall under most regulations. Now, it's a strange knife. Its handle is very cubic, to put it simply. And again, you have a clip point blade with a mirror polish. It is made of 440A steel and features a flat grind. You have Mikov's logo on this side of the blade, although there is no other stamping on the rest of the knife. I'll just get the fingerprints off briefly. There we are. Very nice polish on the blade. And considering the level of craftsmanship put into this, I'm quite surprised that this knife only costs $39, as it's very well put together. The blade is very angled, as you can see here, and tapers down to a nice swedge on either side of the blade. And again, with a smaller blade, you have a lot of precision work here. One thing I find is that you can wrap your index finger around the front and put your thumb up here, and you have a fairly nice knife to do forward-facing cuts, I suppose. And also, this could make for a decent whittling knife. Of course, it has a very refined tip, which could be useful in many situations as well. One of the main concerns I had about this knife was its overall stability. But there is absolutely no blade play in any direction on this knife. And as for the handle, I feared that the hinges may be either too tight or too loose, but they are tight enough that they won't move unless you want them to, but they're loose enough that they run very smoothly, and as you can see, the knife operates very, very well. Again, not too loose and not too tight. A Goldilocks phenomenon, if you will. One thing I quite like about this knife is how well it would go into a pocket. One issue with some knives, traditionals included, is that they tend to have parts that stick out and could get caught on things or scratch things that are also in your pocket. And you can see here, for example, on this knife, there's a bit of exposed tang that sticks up. And that could be a bit of a nuisance if you are trying to take it out of your pocket and it gets caught. However, there is no such fear with the Kostka, as when folded up all the way, nothing sticks out, nothing protrudes, and everything just sits very nicely in this small little package. This knife, again, in the closed position, does not even look like a knife, but it opens up and showcases a very nice little blade. It's by no means threatening or aggressive, and would make for a nice utility knife. Despite this, it still holds a certain degree of class, and I would say it's quite the elegant knife. The all stainless silver construction is quite reflective and shiny, unfortunately making it a fingerprint magnet. One thing that is worth mentioning, and this is for my UK viewers, this knife, I would say, is not UK legal, and while it does not show any typical locking mechanism such as a liner, frame, or back lock, it certainly does have a mechanism that prevents it from closing during use, and the design itself makes it impossible to do so. And because of this, I would call it a gray area for the definition of a locking knife. But for safety, I would not recommend that you carry this, as it's really not worth the risk. There are other knives that can probably do the same things that this can, but don't carry the risk of getting in trouble with the law. But again, whether you wish to consider this a friction folder, a locking knife, or perhaps using it as a chance to define an entirely new mechanism, that is up to you. Although I would lean more towards calling this a form of locking mechanism. One thing I thought of upon seeing this knife, and it was vaguely reminiscent of, is a balisong. Balisongs are, of course, not legal in Canada, the UK, or even certain parts of the US, and so there's no chance that I'll be getting one ever. But I will say that this does share some similarities, as a balisong contains the blade within the handle, it's sandwiched within, and of course you have to flick the knife open, which is done with one hand. So the main difference between this and a butterfly knife is you have to use two hands to open it, and the process is quite a bit slower. So this is, for that reason, a very legal knife, at least here in Canada, whereas a butterfly knife would not be. But I'm very happy to have it, and again, I've carried this a little bit since I got it. It's shockingly comfortable in the hand, despite being a bit strange in appearance. It's a nice little knife, and it does what you'd expect it to do. You could open a box, a letter, or a wrapper with this very, very easily. So I very much appreciate it, and I think that it's quite the beautiful little knife. I describe it as Art Deco, but at the same time, very futuristic. And I'd be curious to see if we may find more knives like this in the future, as I very much prefer traditional knives, and again, things like this. But if this is the direction that knives of the future may start taking, I might be a bit more interested in them, as this knife has really impressed me, as it's just a very elegant example of craftsmanship. It's very well put together, and I quite like the style of it. Pardon me. But overall, everything is smooth, well sanded, and nothing sticks up or is proud. Again, it's very secure, very well done, and is just a beautifully smooth knife. I very much like the design, and I'm very curious to see if more of these types of knives are shown in the future. But there you are. There is the Mikov Kostka. Let me know what you think of this knife in the comments down below. I, for one, very much like it and would recommend it just as much, if not more, than the Little Fish, as while the Rybička is considerably cheaper, it doesn't carry the same unique style that this knife does. Of course, that's a matter of opinion, but regardless, I very much like this knife, and yes, this was a buy that I wasn't sure about, but I'm very happy I got it. So, thank you very much for watching. This has been the Mikov Kostka, and this is the Knife Raven, as always, signing off. Goodbye.